Chris and Aaron Roberts, brothers and gaming legends, are orchestrating a genesis, a whole new universe, unprecedented in scale and detail, is taking shape in their studios in the U.S. and Europe.
Is that as real?
Yeah, that's 6'6". We met.
I'm super happy. It's like a dream come true. It's building a universe at a level of detail that the suspension of disbelief can happen.
Could you possibly have imagined this?
No, I didn't imagine it 4 years ago, to be honest.
Welcome to the stunning, evolving worlds of Squadron 42 and Star Citizen, two titles that are taking PC-based gaming into a whole new dimension, with financial and moral support from a huge universe of players themselves. Roberts Space Industries gets its financial fuel from crowdfunding, record-breaking crowdfunding.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Around the Verse.
When you first had the idea of raising money in this fashion, did you imagine it would end up this way?
We launched the crowdfunding campaign thinking it would help, sort of finalize the investment, and it took off to such an extent that we were like, well, I don't think we need to raise any money. I mean, now we're well past $160 million raised, which is incredible. I mean, to my knowledge, I don't think there's any other crowdfunding campaign that's raised nearly the volume of money we have, and it's a testimony to the universe that we're trying to build and the excitement. There's a lot of PC gamers out there that would like to see the kind of game we're building, which normally you would say, oh, that's crazy, that's too ambitious. That's, you're trying to do too many things. How's your landing gear stuff doing?
The big studios had moved away from desktop computers, placing their big bets on gaming consoles and souring on the space genre as well. But PC gamers apparently abhor a vacuum.
So the ships aren't floating away. And
There was a lot of people who basically said, no, that's not right. And they have someone who stepped up and said, no, I'm going to make you that game. And a lot of people said, yeah, absolutely, we'd like to follow that and help make that happen.
I think the market has voted, hasn't it? And said yes.
Yes, I mean, it definitely has, yeah.
About 2 million of them have ponied up. There is some star power in the mix to lure them as well.
There can be no survival!
In the 1990s, Chris Roberts created the hugely successful Wing Commander series. The games led to a television series, a feature film, novels, and countless collectibles. And it led Chris into the movie business in the early 2000s. But in 2011, he saw an opening for a triumphant return to gaming.
I felt that the technology had moved along far enough that I could create this immersive universe that I always sort of had in my head, and I'd, over the time in my past games, was sort of building towards, and also do it in a way that you could get all these people to play together in the same universe, and also connect with them directly. That question of whether that truly not simulates it or not, I just don't know.
Chris started creating computer games when he was 11. 2 years later, he sold his first game to BBC Micro User magazine.
I started making games in the very beginning in the industry, back when you did it just by yourself. So you did the programming, you did the art, you did the sound, you did the design, you did the writing. And so the very early days, say the 80s, that's how games were made.
Times have changed. There are 400 designers creating Star Citizen, a massively multiplayer online game, and its single-player spin-off, Squadron 42. Their crowd-funded bonanza has raised the bar.
So when you get that kind of response, does it change the end goal? Does it make you want to do more? Does it kind of force you to do more?
Because we'd raised the money, we could invest in better engineers, better artists, new technology in a way that we previously said, no, we don't have the time to do this. And so the game itself, in terms of what it can do, has grown exponentially to what we'd originally started with and what we'd originally sort of pitched. And I think that's great, because in some ways the community themselves has set the ambition of the game.
Originally, we weren't going to have the ability just to go onto a planet seamlessly and wander around and all that kind of stuff. But of course, when we had the money and the time to do that kind of stuff, we basically put features like that into the game. And so the scope definitely changed a lot. And so we were always planning to build on what we had slowly for a period of time, but it allowed us to basically upgrade a bunch of technology behind the scenes to get to this level of fidelity and gameplay faster.
So we're not really running this business as a business that we're sort of socking a bunch of money away as a profit. We're running it as, okay, you guys are supporting us to this level, therefore we can afford this many engineers, this many artists, this many designers, this many musicians, this many sound designers, whatever, and we can make a world this big now instead of this big, and that's great. So the scope expands with the support, and ultimately sort of ends letting us get to the point where I think if I pitched this game to anyone 5 years ago, they would have looked me in the eye and said, "You are absolutely nuts. You'll never be able to do that." But I think we'll be able to get there, and that's pretty awesome.
On this all-star team of talented developers, Tony Zervak, the architect of the game's persistent universe.
The decisions that you make early on in development are basically, that's the scaffolding that's going to, inhibit or allow you to do more ambitious, evolutionary things later on. But at least for some of these systems, it's like you don't have anything until you've got, the foundation.
I don't know if any of you guys got to try the FOIP, the Face over IP. I don't know.
Their 2 million investors are also playing a big role in the development. As the team builds modules, they release alpha versions online. Version 3.0 offers the first fully functional game experience.
Fire up!
As I'm sure you've heard, Alpha 3.0 has gone to a wider PTU, so we've gone beyond Advocate.
The company maintains a constant dialogue with its fans and financiers.
It's like running a political campaign all the time, because you're always constantly, you're showing what you're doing, you're talking about what you're going to do, you're pressing the flesh. And there's a certain energy you get from that, I really like it. But of course, it does take work. You have to really work at it. You can't just phone that sort of stuff in.
And I think that is going to have a dramatic impact on what the game, eventually winds up being. And I think it's going to have a huge, huge effect in terms of how the game evolves over time. And this is where I think that really this project and the community are basically making history.
So what will the Star Citizen experience be like?
I mean, we're building a huge sandbox, which will have basically rules like we have in society, and there'll be law enforcement, there'll be other things, and it's up to the player to really decide what they want to do and where they want to go and who they want to interact with.
In some ways, this is like Second Life, which has been going for quite a long time. That is basically what Star Citizen is. It will be another life you live in this future universe, and you can do whatever you want. And if you just want to hang out with your friends and chat in a bar, you can do that. If you want to go and fight pirates, you can do that. It's up to you.
Players will figure out the holes in the system. Players will take advantage of it. We will adjust accordingly to bring it back into line. Players will look for new exploits, et cetera, et cetera. And to me, that's actually just part of the fun. It's kind of the same thing in the real world. It's like, that's a trick that would work in the real world, so you really should be rewarded.
They'll be able to get rich, they'll be able to be pirates, they'll be able to be mercenaries, they'll be able to go law enforcement, they'll be able to go mining, they'll be able to do farming, they'll be able to do, you can literally land on a planet and you can stake your own claim and basically buy a plot of land, and you can build your own homestead on there, and from there you can basically mine your land, or you can just do a lot of other things and so forth.
You should be able to land on this planet. You go and find a brand new planet, land, explore, find resources, fight off hostile wildlife, maybe make your own little settlement, and do all this at a level of detail that in first person, incredibly high fidelity. If you have a webcam and you're playing the game, it recognizes your face, and it can notice all your expressions and your face movements, and it can translate them in real time to your character in the game.
If I'm naughty and I start, picking off, other players and stuff, then to me, it's actually fun when the system is smart enough to detect that, and all of a sudden I've got a bounty on my head. And now, not only are NPC security guards being attracted to me, but other players now have a mechanism by which they can actually figure out where the guys with the bounties are, and so all of a sudden you've got everyone on your tail because you've been doing something you're not supposed to do.
It's a highly immersive world.
They called our generation the missing millions.
Not unlike what is portrayed in the 2011 science fiction novel Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, soon to be a Steven Spielberg movie.
There's nowhere left to go. Nowhere except the Oasis.
It's about a dystopian future where most people live their lives out in virtual reality. And it's kind of fascinating, a little bit dark, and this game has the potential to be like a predecessor to that.
I met Andy Green at the RSI studio in Los Angeles. He is the man behind the hugely successful weather app MyRadar. He's developing ways to integrate Star Citizen planets into MyRadar, and maybe vice versa.
We were able to take their data, kind of massage it into this format that we could use, and made it really easy to just kind of represent all of their moons right within the app, and it was really kind of cool.
So you can get the weather on these virtual moons on MyRadar, is that it? Or explain how it works.
So not quite yet. Right now, at the moment, you can just kind of explore the surface. You can explore the geographical features and kind of get the lay of the land, the landscape. We'd love to kind of, at some point, maybe, explore working with the weather, but I think the technology with the game isn't quite there yet.
It's just one more emerging element in this deep, broad, constantly evolving universe.
In some ways, you can consider it will never be finished. Let me put it that way. I mean, you can consider it a finished as in terms of, well, this would be what a publisher would consider something it would release and monetize. But I don't think it will ever be finished as an artistic endeavor, because it's always going to grow and improve itself over the years, as long as people want to carry on playing it. When people stop wanting to play it, then obviously that wouldn't happen. But that's the goal with Star Citizen.
For developers and players of Star Citizen, the journey is the destination. For MyRadar, I'm Miles O'Brien in Los Angeles.